Further aware that the County Executive Committee member, Dr. Alfred Ndemo, has duly failed to uphold the oath of office and instead has grossly violated the Constitution of Kenya and other laws, and has abused his office and engaged in acts of gross misconduct. Mr. Speaker, now therefore, the House resolves that Dr. Ndemo Alfred Ongera, the County Executive Committee member, County Administration, Public Participation and Office of the Governor, Kisii County Government, removed from office pursuant to Article 185, Section 3 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Section 40 of the County Governments Act revised 2020-2012, as read with this House Standing Order number 62 on the following grounds. Number 1, gross misconduct. Mr. Speaker, the County Executive Committee member engaged in acts of misconduct constituting to justifiable and lawful grounds for his dismissal by committing, or on reasonable and sufficient ground is suspected of having committed a criminal offense against all to the substantial detriment of his employer or employer's property as set out in Section 44G of the Employment Act, revised edition 2022 from 207. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Alfred Ndemo, the County Executive Committee member, while serving as the CEM, Trade, Tourism, Industry and Marketing, altered and uttered on 28 April 2023 a letter purporting to appoint him to the Implementation Committee for the establishment of the Kisii County Industrial Park, while knowing that the Governor, Kisii County Government, never uttered or made any such appointment. Mr. Speaker, the County Government of Kisii, employer of the Chief Executive Committee member, reasonably believed on the ground of uttering the said letter and subsequent activities flowing therefrom that the CEM is reasonably suspected of having forged or uttered person who knowingly and fraudulently utters a false document is guilty of an offense of the same kind and is liable to the same punishment as if he had forged the thing in question. Number 2, gross violation of the Constitution. By virtue of the County Executive Committee member, Dr. Alfred Ndemo, purporting to have been appointed by the Governor to the Implementation Committee for the establishment of Kisii County Industrial Park, while knowing the same to be untrue and thereafter by spearheading the project without authorization, breached the provisions of Article 10, 232 and Article 73, Section 2D of the Constitution, which obliges public officers to observe the national values and principles of governance when making or implementing public policy decisions and inquiring of the officer of higher standards of professional ethics, and B, person who knowingly and fraudulently utters a false document is guilty of an offense of the same kind and is liable to the same punishment as if he had forged the thing in question. Number 2, gross violation of the Constitution. By virtue of the County Executive Committee member, Dr. Alfred Ndemo, purporting to have been appointed by the Governor to the Implementation Committee for the establishment of Kisii County Industrial Park, while knowing the same to be untrue and thereafter by spearheading the project without authorization, breached the provisions of Article 10, 232 and Article 73, Section 2D of the Constitution, which obliges public officers to observe the national values and principles of governance when making or implementing public policy decisions and inquiring of the officer of higher standards of professional ethics, and B, 8 April 2023, a letter purporting to appoint him to the Implementation Committee for the establishment of the Kisii County Industrial Park, while knowing the same to be false, constitute breach of Section 9 of the Public Officer Ethics Act, which requires a public officer to carry out his duties in a way that maintains public confidence and the integrity of his office. Mr. Speaker, the said acts by the the County Executive Committee member are in a breach of the provisions of the Leadership and Integrity Act, in particular Section 3, which requires a state officer to respect the values, principles, and the requirements of the Constitution under Article 10 of the Constitution. The responsibilities of the leadership provided for under Article 73 of the Constitution, the principles governing the conduct of state officers provided for under Article 75 of the Constitution, particularly that a state officer shall behave in a manner that avoids demeaning the officer holds in breach whereof the officer may, in accordance with the disciplinary procedures, be dismissed or otherwise removed from the office, and in so far as relevant, the values and principles of public service as provided for under Article 232 of the Constitution. The County Executive Committee member, Dr. Alfred Ndemo has abused his office contrary to Section 45 as read with Section 48(1) of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act number 3 of 2003. Being a public officer, he has used his office to improperly confer on himself a favor or advantage which he was not otherwise entitled to, as exposed in Philomena Bele Mwilo versus DPP and others of 2018, and the Kenya and the KLR, and in John Simiyu Kaemba and another versus Republic 2020 and KLR, that the offense of abuse of office is committed through improper use of public office, which would include conspicuous violation of non-adherence to prescribed procedures and regulations with the aim of conferring a benefit on the public officer himself or another person. Mr. Speaker, the County Executive Committee member regularly assigned himself 2 staff officers from other departments of the county government without adhering to the prescribed procedures and regulations. The County Executive Committee member, on being reassigned from the Department of Trade, Tourism, Industry and Marketing to his current Department of Public Service, County Administration, Public Participation, and Office of the Governor, Kisii County Government. Mr. Speaker, there are, with the attachments, there are handwritten statements from the witnesses. Also, Mr. Speaker, there are affidavits for that. Mr. Speaker, if you look at these allegations, these are not some of the issues we are trying to depend on, maybe trying for which hand. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, these Chief Executive Committee members are the appointees of the government. But it beats logic, Mr. Speaker, when you get a member of such a caliber trying to handle with the junior officers, trying to seek some information to dig down to other members. Mr. Speaker, you cannot bully your junior officers in the name of serving the government, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at this lady who was deployed from the Department of Trade to the new Department of Public Participation, Public Service, I mean. Mr. Speaker, that lady went through a lot. But because she didn't have anywhere to report to, she had to persevere. But later, after trying to consult the county secretary, she got that they were doing wrong things. Mr. Speaker, if you try and look at the case of the industrial park, Mr. Speaker, this one person went further, forged a letter purporting it to be an appointee of the government, forging a signature of the county, the governor, trying to appoint himself as the member who is going to oversee the putting up of the industrial park, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is no way out. If you continue with this now, Mr. Speaker, even with the current members, we will head nowhere. as a government. So, Mr. Speaker, with that, I table my case, Mr. Speaker, and I request